Old Macdonald had a farm, you know the B-I-N-G, B-I-N-G-O. And on this farm he had some pigs, you know it's B-I-N-G, B-I-N-G-O. With some oink here and some sheep there and some all kinds of things almost everywhere because the old MacDonald had a farm. E-I-E-I-O. Now see, the difference between that and the traditional farm. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. This is really important, more important than you know, and I'll address that presently. That has something to do with Old MacDonald, and the song Bingo was his name also. Have a lot to do with something that I'm not going to discuss here for a moment. In the first place, I just sang you a basis for Old MacDonald had a farm. And no, I didn't sing it at all like it's supposed to be sung. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And on this farm he had some ducks, E-I-E-I-O. With a quack quack here and a quack quack there and here a quack there. Right, that's the original song I'm singing. Old MacDonald had a farm, you know, E-I-E-I-O. And on this farm he had some ducks, E-I-E-I-O. Well, a quack quack here and a quack quack there and a quack quack almost every friggin' where. Well, old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. So that's a lot different than the traditional way you do it. But I'm only able to do that because I've sung the traditional way so many times that I am thoroughly bored with it. I could do it in my sleep. If I was nodding off in the car and the kids' tape was on, and then I'd be like, what a cheap, cheap here, here, cheap. So I'm pretty familiar with that song. So I'm able to freely improvise inside and outside of it. I can even do it to the normal music. You put on Barney. I can out Barney Barney. Oh, MacDonald had a farm, and my tail is big. And on this farm we had a pile of things left over from a pig. With a hoof hoof there and a snout snout there. You know, anybody can do this stuff. But the point being, that you take a song that you know very well, or a painting style that you know very well, or a poetry style that you know very well, or a form of oration that you know very well, or even of dance, and you are so conversant with it that you feel compelled to vary it, to explore it, simply to keep involved in it and keep it current with you, instead of just like relegating it to habit and never growing anymore. Now what you have done, if you've followed this, is you've just reinvented jazz. That's what jazz is. People think it's a way you write. People think it is a specific to, you must wear a suit, you must be playing these instruments and none others, you must be in such and such a milieu, you must perform in such and such a way, and those are not really the case so much. The truth, from my point of view, of jazz is that the men and women playing in bands, especially in the age of dance bands, were playing the same songs every night. And every night, every night, every night, every night. And to maintain a sense of individuality so that their name might be remembered by an owner, not just for its interesting name, which was usually the name of the band leader, Roger Miller's band, Cab Calloway's band, would be to play a song either extremely well, in a different way, a different arrangement than everyone was used to, and superlatively well in your musicianship, or to create new songs and become known for, well, we gotta learn one new song a week, boys. I'm gonna have to write it. Oh gosh, please God help me. I'll sell my soul down to Crossroads. So you got a God of some kind. So, hey, somebody to call his own. So anyway, you would play these same old tired songs, 1 o'clock jump, right? Take the A train, no offense, Billy. But you'd play these same songs over and over and over and over and over and over. Oh my gosh. Based on how people dance. Because that's what they were there for, was to dance. They were there to get a little drunk, whirl around a little bit, subconsciously inform themselves as to the state of other people's receptivity to sexual overture. You think I'm kidding? I'm absolutely serious. Talk to a scientist about that. pheromonal chemistry. So they got bored with those songs. They had to play them so much. Oh my gosh. And you had to play them well every time. Cab Calloway wasn't going to let some crumb bum play in his band. You know what I mean? Cab was like, hey, you better be ready for this. We got the Nicholas Brothers on tonight. If you miss a note, the world's greatest dancers are going to be sad. So, see what I mean? There are pressures on the musicians, and they have to be either the finest at their craft or the finest balance of factors that brought them to their craft in that place at that time. Sort of like a football player. You know, a football player isn't the biggest, strongest, meanest guy around. He's the biggest, strongest, meanest guy that will take orders from overweight, middle-aged men who are screaming at them and spitting on them and go, yes, sir. That's a big difference. Wait, the biggest, strongest men aren't necessarily like that. They might be like Hulk Crush, a fat old man, you know. So, but the point being, if you're extraordinarily good at something, or if you become extremely competent at it through rote or repetition, you now have the option to experiment within that thing, that craft, that art form, that means of expression, in a way that has either not been done before or has not been done by you before. And this is the kernel. This is the essence of what jazz is. So no, it's not, I wrote a song called Take the A Train and I wrote a jazz song. That was a swing dance tune. It was meant to be danced to, just like Burning Down the House, in case you remember any other oldies. It was meant to be danced to. So it doesn't have to be brilliant work of musical art. However, the players that are playing it, and it's really not bad. I mean, the subtlety of swing chording brings us to some of the best of jazz. But in the meantime, the idea is that you have mastered the idiom in which this song lies. I can now play some kind of music perfectly well. I can play anything by Eagles, Beatles, Everly Brothers, Billy Joel, John, choose acts and say, I can do all this stuff. And then go play that stuff to yourself over and over and over again, or in bars and clubs or dance halls or, you know, church, wherever you're going to play. And over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And you know what's going to happen? You're going to become bored. It's true. And while you're bored, you'll think, how can I keep this interesting so I don't just zone out on it? These people, my people, the dancers, the patrons, right? Holy people are depending on me to do this right, even if I'm bored with them. And so we develop this game called jazz. And if you're really fortunate, you develop this game with other members of the band who are in your state, your lane, traveling at your speed between the right exits on the highway of music. And here you guys are, and suddenly you're having fun again. And you and he are playing inside the rhythm, inside the melody, inside the harmony, because those are the three factors that create a song, by the way. If you lack one, you don't have a song. You have some other art form, beat poetry. That's not a song. People that call that music are incorrect. That's all right. You're odd, but that's a vast misapprehension to think that if a work of art does not contain rhythm, harmony, and melody, that it is a song. It is not. Those are the three inarguable elements of any song. Otherwise, you can call it beat poetry. I call it beat poetry because of the beatniks, but you could also call it beat poetry because a lot of it uses beatbox, right? Which is either a human or a computer-generated soundtrack. Okay. And even in that, you become so good at it that you have to experiment. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This experimentation keeps you fresh within your art or your craft. By the time you get there, it's a craft. It's no longer an art. And you are seeking to restore it as an art. And that's what jazz is. Jazz brings back, at least for a brief time, it brings back art to the musical person's craft. Because you played your stuff, you created it as art, or you picked other people's work as art, and you performed it, and created out of it a craft where you do it the same every time. That's what craft is. That's why I don't say that certain things are art, because they're not. They're craft. MMA is an art. Karate is a craft. because you have to learn exactly the right thing and do it exactly the right way, and that's what makes you good at karate. When you get in the ring with another person, that's called mixed martial arts. They're not the same. They apply, but they're not the same. That congruency does not exist there. So here we go again. Anything that you become so proficient at that it has lost its luster for you can be remade as you experiment inside it. And that can be any art or any craft. As I said, if you do it often enough, even the greatest art becomes craft. Case in point, Peter Max. Remember the hippie artist, the guy that did all the wild rainbow pictures, the Beatles, Yellow Submarine, conceptual art, and all that stuff. That guy. I went to a show of his, Puma, Sharpsburg Artist took me to, and what I saw was he had found a loft somewhere where he had stored a bunch of old paintings, and they were all experiments in exactly the same thing. And get this, two of them, two different subjects. One was that cherry leaf, cherry branch, same one over and over again. 15 canvases, different sizes, cherry branch. It's all a copy from a Van Gogh piece. And then one of the Van Gogh portraits copied over and over and over and over and over again with a loving care and an intensity that must have grown into either boredom or endorphin uptake blocking. Not healthy, but certainly craft, not art, because he was doing the same thing over and over again, apparently hoping for a different result. For those people that think that that can't be done, you don't know what practice is. Okay, so Peter was at that point. Peter was at the point where now his art, which had been very creative and very flowery, very unusual and unique for his times, had become a craft. He was painting the same thing over and over again, trying to be Vincent van Gogh, trying to be whatever it is he's searching for in life. God bless him if he found it. He may still be alive, so I hope he finds it. When I saw him, he was well and truly trashed. And so that level of trashed is either because you want to be or because the doctors put you there. If the doctors put you there, God bless you, sir, I hope you're still alive. And if you did that to yourself, damn, man, I wish I had a bottle of that. So anyway. Jazz is when you become so expert at what you are doing that it has lost its art for you. You now know exactly how it goes every time. It's never going to be any different. How should it be? You've got it perfect. Why should you change perfection? That is the trap of any art that's pursued to distraction, pursued to perfection. But if you get caught in that trap, you can get out of it, or you can avoid it. Simply say to yourself, I am so good at this that instead of saying, oh, I'm just good at this, instead continue to challenge yourself, continue to work toward a goal. This time I'm going to say I'm going to take old Macdonald Had a Farm and I'm going to rock it. And you create something new in the melody. You stay with the melody, but you improvise all around it. You stay with the lyric, but you improvise all around them. You stay with the rhythm, but you improvise all around it. And now you have recreated your craft as an art. Now you have independently evolved jazz. And that's what jazz is. There are other ways to look at it. You can go to school for music and say, I want to learn everything there is to know about music. But all you're going to learn in school is you're going to learn the mechanical, the mathematical, the quantifiable. You're not going to learn any of the other half, which is the freedom of expression half, which is this relationship is right. I can't tell you why. It can't be quantified. You need to have it in your soul. And for those of you that haven't ever found that, it still exists. Look for it. Go for it. Become so good at the thing that you do that you seek to improvise with it, to recreate it from a craft into an art again. And you will have found jazz. Now, will you be as good as Charlie Parker or Dizzy Gillespie or Jaco de Pastorius? What does that mean? Could they express themselves superlatively well? Had their inner traumas created in them a fertile soil in which virtuosity could grow into a mighty tree that no one could equal? Is that what you want? I don't think so. I mean, you might. But I'd say instead what you want is you want to take whatever level you're at and recreate that as art. You're not stuck in a craft. I've done this so many times, it's just, I'm just going to, I could close my eyes the whole night and play Glenn Miller. Da 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 da. Please shoot me, da 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 da. Please shoot me. And now you and the drummer are singing that back to each other while the band is going on. That's what jazz is. So you guys that think that jazz is some lofty, arithmetic thing, that isn't how you find it. You can know everything about music, everything that can be quantified about music. You can learn it all in school and then be stuck in that same old trap where you've created a craft out of an art. No, break free. Look for where you can change that craft back into an art, where you can make it relevant for you again, not just as an era of mastery. Well, I'm so good at this, I'm just going to stay there forever. I'm really good at taking a bath. I'm just going to keep running the warm water until I die. Or you can move out, get out, towel yourself off, walk out and fight your way through the barnyard where everything's gone to hell while you're in the bath, right? And that is jazz. I don't want to talk about the tragedy that brought the men that we think of and the women that we think of as prodigal performers to their peak of performing art, their recreation of that craft into art. I don't want to discuss that because that is the stories of tragedy and personal pathos. Wow. I'm only trying to get all of you to see that you can reinvent jazz for yourself. You can reinvent the wheel and be the first person that ever did it in your life. How about that? Wild Bill, 5th of April, 2022. It's not jazz in 20 minutes like that video I watched on YouTube, oh gosh. But it is the story of jazz from inside the artist's mind.